All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. A men's basketball team that has a losing record overall, while also being in last place in the Big Ten and playing their home games in a half empty arena, is not the formula for a head coach to keep his job. And this is what Juwan Howard is currently dealing with at his alma mater in Michigan. Now, more than 30 years ago, Howard was part of a quintet of five freshmen who changed college basketball forever. And I'm talking about that famed Fab Five that burst onto the scene as true freshmen to help Michigan get to the national championship game back in 1992. And of course, as sophomores, they did it once again in 1993. Now, Howard returned to his alma mater in 2019, and by his second year, he was able to get the Wolverines to the Elite Eight. But since then, Michigan has not come close to matching the success that they had. We saw them get to the Sweet 16 in 2022. Last year, Michigan had to settle for an NIT bid. And this year, unfortunately for Juwan Howard and Michigan, the bottom has officially fallen out. We're talking about a Michigan team that is just 7-15 now, 2-9 in the Big Ten, and since December 9th, okay, Michigan was 6-5 at that point. Michigan has now only won one of their last 11 games, and that was a 73-65 win over Ohio State about 2.5 weeks ago. So you look at this right now, and this is a tough stretch for Michigan. It's a tough stretch for Juwan Howard because, unfortunately, for his sake and the sake of this program, Michigan is on pace for their worst season since 2008. And of course, that year saw them lose 22 games. You're not going to win that many basketball games, regardless of the level, regardless of the conference that you're in, when you're giving up nearly 80 points per game. This is what Michigan is currently doing right now, which is last in the Big Ten. You're talking about a Wolverines team. They're eighth in the Big Ten in rebounding. They're 13th in turnovers. It's one of those where I knew that things weren't going to be as easy for Michigan this year. They lost Hunter Dickinson in the transfer portal. He went to Kansas. You look at it, you're hearing stories about, NIL issues, you name it. But of course, unfortunately, for college coaches, especially in men's basketball and football, that's the name of the game. This is something that they have to deal with right now, the ups and downs of the transfer portal. But I look at it like this: is Juwan Howard's system working for Michigan? And a bigger question, does Juwan Howard have a system there? You look at it right now for this Michigan team, their latest loss. They lost today at home to Rutgers. This was a game where Michigan led by a 9 at the half, and they just fell apart in the second half. And if you've looked at a lot of Michigan games this year, especially since Big Ten conference play began, Michigan cannot put together two solid halves. They come out and they play solid in the first half, and it's a little bit of mistakes by Michigan, and it's also credit to their opponents for going out there and making the necessary adjustments to take the lead and, of course, subsequently win a game. But at the end of the day, Michigan with this team right now, they simply don't know how to win. You see the frustration in Juwan Howard. And I think, I hate to say it, but it looks like Juwan Howard might be cold claw coaching rather his final games at Michigan this season. It's one of those where you're 7-15 overall. You're 2-9 in the Big Ten. You don't have an easy schedule remaining, which includes, 3 out of your next 4. You host Wisconsin this Wednesday. Uh, on February 13th, you're at Illinois, followed up by a home, meeting with Michigan State, a Michigan State team that just beat you by 19 earlier this week, which was Tom Izzo's 700th career win there. It's not an easy slate. Michigan still has Purdue later this month. They've got the rematch at Rutgers just before the end of this month. And, they still got to go to Ohio State. And then also we're talking about the Big Ten tournament. So Michigan right now, they're looking like they're probably going to be the 13th team, if not the 14th team, heading into the Big Ten tournament. They're probably going to be one and done there. I really, unless there is an 11th hour miracle, I don't see a scenario where Michigan finishes with a winning record this year, which means more than likely they don't get to the NIT, which means, once the Big Ten tournament is over, their season's over. It's one of those where typically when you think of folks that have meant so much to a university, regardless of the sport, the university when they're working at university is a little bit more patient with them. For me, I would put Juwan Howard in that category, but the problem is there's other factors there. When you're playing and your team is playing in front of a half empty arena, that means that the alumni ain't on board with you, and that's something right there that is very telling because you think about the Chrysler Arena, that place can sell out. And when Michigan is winning, regardless of who the head coach is, regardless of who the players are, the Chrysler Arena can be one of the noisiest arenas in the Big Ten Conference. And that's something right now that we're not seeing right now with this current Michigan team. So I look at it right now. I don't see any scenario where Juwan Howard can survive this. I don't see any scenario, in my opinion, where he'll be back coaching at Michigan next season. I do think that Juwan Howard will coach again. It wouldn't surprise me to see him go back to the NBA. No disrespect to him, but I feel like his style is better suited for that league. He'll probably go back there and be an assistant coach for some team. Maybe he'll go back to the Miami Heat. We got to wait and see. But nonetheless, I just don't think, maybe it's the age gap, but I just don't see his message resonating to these young folks right now. And I just don't see a system that he has in place that can be effective. And I just don't think that everybody who's wearing the maize and blue right now for Michigan men's basketball has bought in or is buying in to what Juwan Howard is preaching. So at the end of the day, the season got off to a slow start for Michigan. I know that Juwan Howard was out with an illness, and it has not gotten any better. Even after last season, there were rumblings from people in some people, at least in the Michigan fan base, that wanted to see the school move on from Juwan Howard. And of course, this struggling season right now that the Wolverines are enduring is not going to make it better. Will Juwan Howard survive and be the head coach of Michigan next season? I highly doubt it, but stranger things have happened. But nonetheless, as the losses continue to mount for Michigan, it is not, I repeat, not making a compelling case for Juwan Howard to remain in Ann Arbor. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.